Okay, the fly I'm going to tie today is going to be a hare's ear. This hare's ear is a particular pattern that I've come up with. It's been probably 20 years ago, and it works really well for me. So I'm going to be tying this today. We're going to start off with some tan biots for the antennas. They're a little tricky to get on. Then once we get those secured, I like to wrap down the hook just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. And I'm going to tie a whip finish in it. And then I cut that thread and slide the bead up over those biots. Now go ahead and start your thread again. I'm using an 18-aught GSP, which is very small. It has almost no buildup. I really like it for these smaller nymphs. Now I'm going to take two more of these tan biots, and I'm going to tie them in for the tails. And I like to go right to where it starts to bend on the hook just a little bit. You can see how those sit. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. Then from here, I am going to tie in a piece of gold holographic flash, and it's small. It's a really small flash. And that will be the ribbing. Go ahead and tie that in and bring it all the way down to where you tied in your tail. Okay, once that's secured, we need some hare's ear dubbing. We don't need a whole lot for this body. This body's a little smaller. I like them. I like the bodies to be just a little more narrow, so that I can get a really good distinction between the abdomen and the thorax as far as size difference goes. So I like to make one wrap and in front, and then come behind it and then wrap up. Okay, as you can see, just got a nice even body there. And then I wrap this gold holographic flash around in the opposite direction so that it doesn't sink down into the dubbing and not be able to see it. So that's tied off. Go ahead and trim that. Now at this point, I like to take a silver holographic flash, and I like this one to be one size up from the small. And And I'll go ahead and tie that in. This is going to be our flashback. And then I've got an extra piece here. I'm going to go ahead and trim that. Okay. Now it's really important that as you're tying these in, you make this as smooth and even as possible right through here. Because what that's going to do is it's going to make it so that you have a nice flat spot to tie your legs on. And I'm going to go ahead and tie in the legs now. I use 3 black paintbrush bristles. Tie that in good and tight. And this is where making this really smooth and even will help you a lot, because you'll be able to set these exactly where you want them. If you've got it all bumpy through there and you've got high spots and low spots, then you're going to end up having a hard time getting the legs the distance apart you want and right where you want them. Okay, so you can see there my legs are fairly evenly spread. Now at this point we're going to take more of the hair dubbing, and on this part can be bulkier. I prefer it a little bulkier, and I believe the fish do as well. This is a pattern that I fish on every stream I've ever been on, and it's a phenomenal little pattern. I fish it a lot on the Madison River in Montana, and it's kind of a little go-to fly for me and the guys that I fish with. Okay, once you've got your dubbing in, go ahead and pull that flash forward, tie it off. I like to go back and forth on each side, and I trim that just a little bit long to help it so it doesn't pull through, because on the inside of this bead you've got a hollow spot that you want to try and fill, and if you don't fill that, then what happens when you tie that in, that flash, then you end up sinking your thread down in there and it comes off the flash, and so your flash will end up coming undone. But I do it like that, and I never have had a problem with it. Go ahead and whip finish that. You know, I don't use a lot of glue on my flies. I just like to tie a few extra whip finishes, and that's always done it for me. Go ahead and trim that off. Now I'll take a little pair of hemos, and on these I like this smooth right through here. If you can find some that's smooth, it's difficult to find some that are smooth like that, but that will help on these legs. And then I pinch right up next to the body on those legs, kind of turn it down, then at that point pull these legs up, and then on this side same thing, kind of turn it down and pull the legs up. Now that'll give you a nice bend in your legs, and these bristles will stay nicely for you. And then go ahead and trim those to the length you prefer. And there it is. It's got little bent legs on there. And that is an awesome hare's ear pattern.